Cannon Spike was released in November 2000 for the Sega Dreamcast. It was developed by shooter developer Saikyo and published by Capcom. Known as Gun Spike in Japan and originally released in the arcades, it was likely renamed to capitalize on the popularity of Cammy, Cannon Spike being one of her signature moves. This 1 or 2 player overhead shooter unfortunately found itself out of its optimal time and place, and suffers greatly for it. Cannon Spike stars 7 characters: Cammy from Street Fighter, Charlie from Street Fighter Alpha, Arthur from Ghouls and Ghosts, Shiba Shintaro from obscure arcade game 3 Wonders, Mega Man from, Mega Man, BB Hood from Darkstalkers, and Simone, an original character for this game. Mega Man and BB Hood are secret characters, and you can't see this, but I put my fingers up in quotation marks for secret, because all you need to do to find them is press left or right at the edges of the character select screen. And if all these disparate characters teaming up seems a bit crazy, just wait until you hear the plot. Robot terrorists are plaguing the world, and the anti-robot special forces, aka you guys, are fighting back. Wait, does that sound familiar? So grab a gun, yes, even you, Arthur, and strap on your rocket-powered rollerblades and skateboards, yes, Arthur, even you, and take out the robot terrorists. So yeah, this game doesn't take itself seriously, and that's one of its strengths. There is a carefree yet loving feel to the game. Enemy names are silly, and sometimes call back to obscure and not so obscure Capcom characters. One boss is named Buggy Hayabusa. It retains Japanese voiceovers, and brings along some endearingly bad translations. Isn't that right, Psychic or Sting? Gameplay, however, is riddled with issues. First and foremost, this game should be a twin-stick shooter, but it's played on a controller with only one stick. Now, the arcade version didn't have twin sticks either, so technically it was never designed to be one. But playing this game for only 10 seconds will make it crystal clear that this game is dying for a second stick. Since it doesn't have one, the controls are compromised to a barely functional degree. Each character has 4 attacks, a strong and weak shot, and a strong and weak melee attack. They have their own limited use special attack as well. Melee attacks are hindered the least. Shooting, however, is a constant, unending struggle. You can lock onto enemies using the right trigger, but you have to line them up with your laser sight first, which requires moving while simultaneously dodging attacks. Picking a specific enemy in a group is hopeless, so just pray you catch anyone and fire away. But the ordeal is not over, as the lock-on is an exercise in frustration. If the enemy moves too fast, you lose it. If you get hit, you lose it. If the enemy goes off screen, you lose it. You lock on too long, you lose it. Yes, the lock-on will simply expire on its own after a few seconds, whether the enemy is dead or not. This makes boss fights just peachy. You simply fire and dodge until you notice you aren't hitting the boss anymore, and then try to lock on again, while in the middle of an onslaught. Most of the time it's easier to simply hold down the fire button. When you do so, you continue to fire in the same direction. Maneuvering yourself so that enemies stay in your line of fire is the better way to go with enemy groups. But no matter what, you always feel handicapped by the control scheme. Characters play very differently, and the game doesn't lay that out for you. That's okay because their character traits are pretty obvious. Arthur with his huge armor moves slower and has weak shots but powerful melee attacks. Cammy is fast with stronger shots but has weaker, hard to land melees. Mega Man is good all around. Judging when it is best to use ranged attacks versus melee adds a strategic element to Cannon Spike, especially when having to make different judgments on situations depending on your chosen character's strengths and weaknesses. One of the best things this game does is how it handles difficulty. You have a single life and 3 continues, no ifs, ands, or buts. This is a very challenging game even on normal. So not only did they include an easy mode, they went 3 levels below that all the way to baby mode. This is the answer to the question, should Souls games have an easy mode? The answer is yes. Call it baby mode. Cannon Spike being a straight arcade port means there simply isn't much content here. Each of its 9 levels consists of 3 to 4 maps and 2 bosses. But each map is only an overhead rectangle that takes up 1.5 to 2 screens of space, and each level will be completed in less than 5 minutes. There's not much graphic detail outside of the characters. The music ranges from unremarkable to annoying, and since there is so little of it, you will be hearing the same tunes over and over. Upon its release, Cannon Spike featured dated game design and exposed one of the Dreamcast's biggest weaknesses, the controller. A straight arcade port was simply too short on content to compare to the vast majority of titles being released at the time. If Cannon Spike were released 10 years later as a downloadable title on PSN or Xbox Live, its score attack type gameplay would probably find an audience. What it ended up being was a thin arcade port on a platform filled with better ones.